Sorry, I know you're in the middle of eating. I wanted to welcome everyone here to this is our second Arthroplasty and Implant Appreciation event. What this event is it's a time to thank those who have trusted in AVORS Medical Group in having either a total joint, whether it's a total shoulder, whether it's a total knee, whether it's a unity or a total hip, or whether it's an implant. And we have some vendors here today, and I just wanted to show some appreciation. Depew is here, and so is Stryker. Both of them have the total robot. As we talk through lots of the presentation, we're going to be putting a special emphasis on the total robot and why that's going to be a benefit to the community. We have specialty care solutions in Lima. On top of that, we have medical distributors who is not here right now, but they provide some of our total knee replacements and total hips. Max Knees is here, Metropolitan Home Health. DLS is a lab that services the Antelope Valley. Microfar Insurance Services provides healthcare. Primex does lab at Henry Schein as well. As we get started, I did want to, hey Damien. So I wanted to give special attention to the people who make this all happen. So our project coordinator is Damien in the corner with the red. Lots of these events are run by him, so I don't know how I am bald and he still has hair with the stress he has to endure by doing this. Our second person we just like to show appreciation to is Yesenia Huerta. You can stand, sorry. Well, we have an entire team of highly skilled people. She's our operations manager and the one who makes lots of the day-to-day happen, so it helps our physicians run at a good pace. And what's interesting is, since I've been here, I like to throw a lot of special attention to our physicians because I believe they're world class. But on top of that, we do have amazing staff, and I've learned to now give appreciation to them instead of only mention our amazing providers. So as we get started today, I just want to thank you for coming. This event is something that we try and hold once every year because it's a very scary thing for you to have a total joint, and it takes a trust, much like it is to have a partner, because when you have a total joint, first of all, lots of you are in pain, so you're trying to get out of pain. But some of you have discomfort, or it's even scarier the thought of what could happen during the surgery. So what this event is, it's a way for us to show appreciation for you to take that leap with us. And on top of that, it's a way for us just to thank you and show you our appreciation that you had the trust and courage to have your total joint done with us. So again, if you guys can give yourselves a round of applause, this is really for you, and thank you for everything. It takes a lot of courage to have surgery because there's always the fear of what if I don't wake up. And I don't think there's a single person here who probably went in and had surgery who didn't have fear or didn't have a concern. And our goal is to give you providers who can give you the peace of mind so you know you're in good hands. And what's really crazy, so my mother-in-law and my own mother have had both their knees replaced and hips. And I went with my mother-in-law. She's in Washington, so I went with her. We went to her appointment, and the doctor said, you know what, I've done 650 total knees. And so at that time, I thought, oh, that's pretty good. I looked at our report last month, and AVORS alone in 1 year has done 690 total knee replacements, shoulders, or hips. So in 1 year, our providers have done more than a seasoned 15-year veteran in Kaiser in Washington has done his entire career. So for me, that was kind of a jaw-dropping experience to have that. And as we start talking about our providers, I really believe we have world-class providers. So AVORS Medical Group, last time and by the way, we tried to make it a little bit different because I don't want to say the same jokes that we did last year, but I had asked everyone what AVORS stood for, and I was surprised at the speed that we had a response of what AVORS stood for. We have created a fusion of orthopedics and rehabilitation in the community, and I have a story about that, but it goes really hand in hand. We've been over 17 years in existence and growing, and as we continue to grow, our goal is to be at around 20 providers. And I've been looking at all the growth we've had. We've doubled ourselves in 1 year, and then we're about to double ourselves again with new hires and new providers this year. So I have a little laser pointer for you. Dr. Alon Antebi, he is one of the founders of AVORS Medical Group. He is an interesting fusion of trauma with total joints. And what's fun is, as he's kind of grown his career and grown with Dr. Thomas Nasser, he's our second founder. There he is right there. By the way, I felt like I was doing a great punch putting this together. So I tried to like make it because the song was coming in my head while I was putting it together, so I tried to move it around a lot. But Dr. Thomas Nasser is right here. He is an interesting fusion of physical medicine and rehab and pain management. And what I love about the difference between an MD and a DO, so if you ever have that question, what's the difference between an MD and a DO? A DO is more musculoskeletal, and that's who you want if you're working with an orthopedic. You want someone who has a deeper training in the musculoskeletal system of your body, because he really knows where things are. And as we talk through, we have Dr. Justin Sherfy. He's a fusion too. He's board fellowship trained and certified in total joints as well as orthopedics. And to the right of him with the nice man who has a smile, I tried to get the most embarrassing picture of him. So there it is, Dr. Orlando Pena. He's, Dr. Nasser and Dr. Pena are both the medical directors of Palmdale Regional and Acute Rehab. So what that means is when you get in a traumatic injury, lots of the automobile accidents that you see on the news, they go to Antelope Valley Hospital, but after that, they most likely will go to acute rehab to get training. So if it's like a traumatic brain injury, if you rolled over and you broke both legs, if you've had a total joint and you're in it, you can't process and go home, you go there and they retrain your body on how to move and how to work. And below Dr. Pena, with the nice beard and smile, that's Dr. Kyle Hopkins. He is the only podiatrist who does trauma in the entire Antelope Valley. So not only do you have a person who does rejuvenative medicine and can help you with diabetic foot care, but if you ever have a significant foot trauma, he can do that as well as total ankles. And below him is Dr. Eric Awashi. He is our newest physician at AVORS Medical Group, board certified, fellowship trained in total joint reconstruction, as well as orthopedics. And his bread and butter, what he does a lot of the hips and knees, and he's going to be talking today about some of that. I just want to point out that he got applause on Dr. Sherfy. Sorry, Dr. Sherfy. In the middle is Dr. Gregory Tennant. Dr. Gregory Tennant, he was the medical director and the creator of the Kaiser Trauma Program in Fontana. And as he was growing his practice out there, he really felt like he was missing something. So he's actually a good friend of Dr. Justin Sherfy and Dr. Alon Antebi, and so they reached out to him, and he's been here for about 2.5 years now. He is mainly trauma, but on top of trauma, he was trained in total joints. And as he's come back to the community, he actually looks similar to another doctor named Dr. Golden when he wears his mask. So a lot of times people will say, hey, Dr. Golden, and he has to pull his mask, and he's like, that's not me. But he, I think, out of all our providers, is the most photogenic. So I put him in the middle, so everyone can see that smile. He's an amazing physician. He couldn't be here today, but what he does a lot is he's on call in trauma in the hospitals that we partner with. And then to the left is Dr. Justin Heller. I made a joke the one time that he's a board certified plastic surgeon as well as he does trauma for hand, elbow, and upper extremity. So he can make you beautiful and he can fix your hand all together at the same time. He is a very interesting situation with him because plastic surgeons are kind of trained to make you look good, and what he does with hand, elbow, and upper extremity is some of the things that happen, he can make it so it doesn't scar. So a few people have had treatment today. When I first started my first month, I had a patient who had a gigantic hematoma. He was bald as well. He had a scar over his entire head from it, and when Dr. Heller did it, he did a special therapy and the scar was gone. So I've never known someone to have such a huge scar that had to be removed. Now, I can't say he does that for everyone, but it's back to that beautiful part. He did an amazing job of removing a scar that was on the guy's head. And our group, I can say it's trauma first, but as we've grown, again, we told a story. As you know, lots of times doctors, when they walk in the room and they see another doctor, their first thought is, well, that's the second best doctor here. Because, of course, they're number one. So as doctors walk into rooms, I don't know if you've heard or remember, but Dr. Antebi and Dr. Nasser, the hospital on accident booked them the same room, and so they were both paying for a room thinking that was their suite. So when both doctors showed up with keys, there was already another doctor sitting there. So So I can only imagine the intense stare down from the two of them looking like, what are you doing in my office? And then both looking at police paperwork like a Western shootout. You know, as you talk about that situation, both of them are very innovative. And I'm going to touch base on that a little bit. But it takes a lot of innovation for two physicians to, instead of argue, to sit and look at each other and realize that there's a benefit to working together. And that's kind of the fusion with AVORS. Instead of working against each other like some practices are, the physicians work together. And when I was interviewing at a big group that was an orthopedic group to be their CEO for all of the Oregon, Arizona, Idaho, and Arizona. And I interviewed with them, and it was an interview with 50 people, so it's like walking into a room this size and having 50 physicians, all with their unique personalities. And as I sat with them, and I met with that group, and I did my interview, I left and I didn't have a good feeling. And I came and I interviewed with this group of physicians, and like the picture shows, it was a different vibe, and I couldn't quite explain it. So when I came home and I talked to my wife, I told her, I'm not going to work with the group, I want to work at AVORS. And my wife was like, what? Like, she was really shocked because that was not the expectation she thought we were going to go. And as I sat and explained the interaction I have with the physicians, you know, my wife said, you know, Joseph, she's like, I trust you, and if that's where you want to go, then I'll go too. It's hard to describe, but when you interact with our physicians, and I'll tell you the difference from the other group is I feel like AVORS truly cares about our patients. The physicians have an interest in your life and well-being, and it's not just a job, it's a calling. And a lot of what we talk about at our practices, we talk about service. Not a lot of people know this, but like our orthopedics are the only orthopedics who care enough to be on call at our local hospitals. No other orthopedist in this area takes call except AVORS Medical Group. So when there's a trauma that happens and it's 1 in the morning, one of our doctors is racing out of bed to save someone's life. There's no other orthopedic surgeon who cares to do that. Because there's other people who are working in this community. And another thing too is, not a lot of people know this, but our physical medicine and rehab docs who do case management, they're the only ones at the hospital who do pain consultations as well. So what that means is, after you've been in a traumatic injury and you've been injured, they're the ones who come and they do pain assessments to make sure that you're given the right amount of medication. And on top of that, to make sure that, because one of the things that not even, you know, the opioid epidemic is a real thing. And people who are completely normal can get hooked on pain medication. So our providers make sure that doesn't happen to you. And that's one of the things that, again, we're the only group that does that service on call at Antelope Valley Hospital in Palmdale, making sure that you're taken care of. So one of the fun things, when I started 3 years ago, there was only 22 reviews on AVORS. So it's been now 4 years, and we are the only group in the Antelope Valley. Let me just show you something. I hate that number. Those 2 people. No, that's not right. They're like too long of a wait. We're the only group. If you go on your phone and you look, we're the only group in the Antelope Valley that has over 1,100 5 stars. So everyone else that you look at, you'll see the ratio will be a ton of these, and then it'll be over half are 1s. So this means that there's, you know, what is the comment? Everyone's easy to complain, but they're very light on actually giving a compliment. So that means that if we have over 1,111 5 stars, that means we also have more that just haven't taken the time to do that. And so that was a powerful thing as I started. One of the greatest things, this is a collection of some of the feedback that we've got over the years. I love Dr. Sherfy. The person wrote "sherrific," but they hyphenated it. That's one of the best things I've seen. There you go, love it. And then Dr. Antebi is a master of his field. A lot of them were focused on, like Dr. Thomas Nasser, seeing him for over 10 years and knowing that he's treated them competently. Just really, really good reviews. One of the things to me that's powerful is if you ever have a second to go on our webpage. and you look under any of our physicians, so I'm going to Dr. Alon Antebi because he's the closest one on the thing. We have patient testimonials, and you can't see it, I'm not expecting you to, but one of the most powerful things is as you keep scrolling, it goes on and on and on and on. It goes on and on. So it says a lot of the competency that people have in our physicians and the work they do. I suffered a death in my family, and I work long hours, so one day I was walking the halls just looking at our walls. I work really late, I can't stop, and I ran across this sign, Anterior Hip Surgery offered at Antelope Valley Hospital. So one of the most powerful things is, when we talk about innovation, it's not that it's easy, but the posterior hip replacement, it's a very trainable procedure. The problem is they're cutting through ligaments, they're cutting through muscle, and on top of that, if you take your feet and you angle it, and don't do that, you could dislocate. So, and Dr. Antebi's like, don't do that, no, but with the anterior hip approach, it is a little bit complicated. It takes very specific training, and it takes time. And the outcome, though, is, so I came from a group that was a center of excellence, and it would take with the posterior hip, and this is a center of excellence, meaning that their benchmarks beat all the national standards. It would take a patient 12 hours to recover. Usually that's the first time they step out of their bed. When I came to AVORS, and we have a surgery center on the 3rd floor, it's a center of excellence, I saw a patient walking an hour and a half after surgery with the anterior hip replacement. Now, not all patients are candidates for it, but not all patients are candidates, but with the anterior hip replacement, your dislocation, at least with our physicians, is as low as 0. So it's really hard to dislocate. On top of that, you're not cutting through all the ligaments, you're not cutting through all the muscle. So patients who've been suffering agonizing, bone on bone from arthritis or something degenerative, usually have less pain than they had before they had the surgery. So it's just a powerful statement to see this. And what's really cool is I looked at the picture, and that's Dr. Thomas Nasser assisting with Dr. Alon Antebi. So it's just funny that those two have had each other's back from the very beginning. And it just goes to show the closeness of our clinic that I have a pain management doctor and an orthopedic surgeon working side by side in an OR, trusting each other, because it takes a lot of trust. When you do a first assist and you mess up, it's likely that doctor will never have you in there again. So in simple stuff as the wrong equipment, and doctors doing these type of surgeries have to trust the people in the room. And we have some reps here, and I know they know what I'm talking about. If you do the wrong thing, that can put a patient's life in jeopardy. So that's why physicians only have teams they trust. So that meant a lot to me when I looked at that picture and I saw Dr. Thomas Nasser. You can't really see it, but that says a lot about the people we work with. You don't have to trust me, you can trust Google, but we are the #1 search under every one of our services we do. So from the total shoulder, total knee, total hip, to the services Dr. Thomas Nasser does, what's really crazy is here's us, and here's the maker of the equipment he uses. So we're ranked above, I don't know if you can see out in the picture, we're ranked above the own manufacturer. And this is what Dr. Nasser's going to talk, the mild procedure. But it just goes to show that the trust is there in our group and what we do and what we stand for. We were featured in Providence. Every year they have publications that go out, and our Dr. Alon Antebi and Dr. Justin Shurfy were featured for the anterior hip replacement. So in the Antelope Valley, they're the only 2 physicians in a private practice who perform the anterior hip replacement, meaning that in a 65-mile radius, there's no one else who performs it. And the other physician, who happens to be a Kaiser doctor, typically does not perform that here in the Antelope Valley. So when you come due to a trauma where your hip needs to be replaced, or due to arthritis or overuse, my family makes big boys, and so we hurt our hips. But they're the only providers here in the Antelope Valley who have that specific training. And again, that says a lot because a lot of times that I've worked in private practice, when we hire a new physician, it's a lone wolf. So I'll give you an example. In Washington, where I was a CEO, we had a new physician started. He saw 4 patients for the first 6 months. Because as everyone came in, they decided not to share any patients with that provider. Dr. Pena, he is one of our pain management providers. He was full, seeing 40 patients a day within 1 month. Dr. Owashi came with us. He sees around 60 to 90 patients a day. Dr. Gregory Tennant, brand new to the area, he sees 70 patients a day. So it speaks to the quality of our physicians that instead of fighting over every patient, they really care that you get the best service the quickest. Now that's been one of our downfalls because I know some of you will see the wait times, but the offset to those wait times is nowhere else can you be seen same day than at AVORS Medical Group. So if you call and you say I need to be seen, it's not that you have a long wait, it's that our physicians will stay as long as it needs to be for you to be seen. So Dr. Alon Antebi, he was out on vacation for a week. He had 110 patients. He worked 10 hours at our clinic. And then he went to do surgery. So it says that the quality and the care of our physicians